Some things on the internet are not meant to be found. They lurk in the shadows, waiting.
I've read thousands of these submissions. Most I can explain away. These 5, I genuinely cannot. Before we begin, and if you've been here before, you know I always say this. I need you to understand something. What you're about to hear didn't come from a writer. It didn't come from a Reddit thread someone fabricated at 2 in the morning because they were bored. These accounts were submitted directly to me. By real people. People with names, addresses, jobs, families. People who, in some cases, asked me not to use their real names because they're still afraid. Still, not we're afraid. Are. I get hundreds of messages every week. Stories about shadows, sounds, feelings that don't have explanations. And most of the time, genuinely, most of the time, I can find the thread that unravels it. A sleep disorder, a carbon monoxide leak, grief doing what grief does to a mind under pressure. I'm not a believer by default. I need to be convinced. These 5 convinced me. One of them, and I won't tell you which one yet, involves someone who I believe is still being watched right now. As you listen to this, as I record it, story 5 is the one that made me stop sleeping with my door open. I've been doing this for years. Nothing has done that before. Nothing. Stay till the end. There's a detail in that last story that nobody is talking about. I don't fully understand why. You'll see. The first story comes from a woman I'll call Dana. She lives in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. The kind of street where people still wave to each other. Where someone brings you a casserole when you're sick. Where nothing, by all reasonable accounts, should ever be wrong. Dana is a morning person. Every day at 7:15, she backs her car out of the driveway, heads to work, and that's that. Routine. Reliable, comfortable. And every morning for 3 weeks last October, her elderly neighbor, a man she'd known for 6 years, a retired schoolteacher named Mr. Henderson, was standing at his front window. Just standing there. And when he saw her, he waved. She waved back. Every single morning. She told me it actually made her feel good. That in a world that felt increasingly cold and disconnected, there was something genuinely comforting about that small moment. An old man at his window. A wave. A reminder that people still noticed each other. She even mentioned it to her husband one evening over dinner. Mr. Henderson's been up early lately, she said. Sweet old thing. Waves to me every morning without fail. Her husband put his fork down. Babe, he said slowly. Mr. Henderson passed in March. Dana laughed. She assumed he was misremembering. Confusing neighbors, maybe. She'd seen the man with her own eyes. Every morning. Same window. Same cardigan. A blue one, she noted, with buttons down the front. Same warm, unhurried wave. Her husband pulled out his phone and showed her the neighborhood Facebook group. The memorial post. The date. March 7th, 7 months before Dana had started waving back. She didn't sleep that night. And I understand that, because what she did next is what separates this story from something you could write off as a misunderstanding or a mistake. Dana had a security camera mounted above her garage. It had been there for 2 years, motion activated, recording every morning. Without exception, she pulled the footage. All 3 weeks of it. And here is where I need you to really pay attention. Every single morning at 7:15, the footage shows Dana walking to her car, opening the door, then stopping, turning toward Mr. Henderson's house, smiling and waving at nothing. The window was dark in every single frame. No figure, no silhouette, no movement of any kind behind the glass. Just a woman, alone on a quiet street, waving at an empty window with a warm smile on her face like she's greeting an old friend. For 3 weeks. She called me the night she watched all of it back to back. I could hear in her voice that particular kind of fear that doesn't come from being startled. It's slower than that. Heavier. It's the fear of realizing something has been wrong for a long time and you had absolutely no idea. I wasn't scared when I was waving, she told me. That's the part one can't get over. I wasn't scared at all. I felt warm. I felt like he was glad to see me. I asked her if anything else had happened since she'd watched the footage back. There was a long pause. I've started avoiding mirrors, she said finally. I know that sounds crazy, but twice now. Twice. I've caught myself in a reflection when I wasn't expecting it. And for just a second. She stopped. I waited for just a second. It looks like I'm waving. And I'm not. My hands are at my sides. But in the reflection, she didn't finish the sentence. I didn't push her to. Dana still lives in that house. She told me she considered moving, but ultimately decided she wasn't going to let it chase her out. She put tape over the security camera 2 weeks after watching the footage back. She said she didn't want to know what else it might have been recording. I respect that. What I will tell you, and this is the part she asked me to include specifically, because she wants someone else to have this information in case something happens, is that the waving in her reflection, it is worse. I don't say that to be dramatic. I say it because the man who sent it to me included a file, an audio file, and I have not yet listened to the whole thing. I'm going to tell you why the man who sent me this story asked me to call him Marcus. He's 23, pre-law student at a university he asked me not to name. By his own description, he's a skeptic. Grew up in a household that didn't believe in anything that couldn't be measured or proven. He sent me 3 paragraphs of background before getting to the actual story, and every single one of them contained some version of the phrase, "I know how this sounds." I know how this sounds. He said it 4 times. I counted. It started on a Tuesday night in November. Marcus was alone in his dorm room. His roommate had gone home for the week, doing what college students do at midnight. Scrolling. Procrastinating. Existing in that particular late-night fog where everything feels slightly unreal anyway. He picked up his phone to set an alarm and noticed something in his voice memos app. A recording he didn't remember making. Now, that alone isn't alarming. Most of us have accidentally triggered a voice memo at some point. It happens. You sit on your phone, your pocket catches the screen, whatever. Marcus assumed that's what it was. An accidental recording, probably nothing but pocket noise and shuffling fabric. He almost deleted it without listening. He almost did. The file was 47 minutes long. He told me the first thing he noticed was the waveform, that little visual display that shows sound as peaks and valleys. For the first 40 minutes, it was almost completely flat. Not entirely flat. If you looked closely, he said, there was something there. Not silence exactly, but the ghost of sound. A low, barely there fluctuation that could have been electrical interference, could have been the soft ambient hum of a building at night, could have been breathing. He skipped through it. 10 minutes in, flat. 20 minutes, flat. 30, flat. He had his thumb over the delete button. He was ready to be done with it. Then at the 40-minute mark, the waveform changed. He told me it didn't build gradually. It didn't fade in. It simply started, like whatever was on the other end of that recording had been waiting, patiently, for 40 minutes, and had finally decided it was time. His own voice began to speak. And this is the part one need you to understand clearly, because it's the part that separates this from anything easily explainable. It wasn't a memory. It wasn't something he'd recorded earlier and forgotten about. Because what the voice was describing, in calm, unhurried, present tense detail, was what Marcus was doing at that exact moment. Sitting on his bed, left leg crossed over his right. The specific hoodie he was wearing, gray, drawstring missing from the left side. The half-eaten bowl of cereal on his desk, the spoon resting at an angle against the rim. The way the lamp in the corner of the room threw a shadow that looked, if you stared at it long enough, vaguely like a person standing with their arms at their sides. He told me he sat completely still while his own voice described him sitting completely still. He said it was like being narrated, like something had been watching him long enough to know not just what he was doing, but how he did it. The specific, unremarkable details that nobody notices about themselves, because why would they? The way he breathes through his mouth slightly when he's tired. The habit he has of running his thumb along the edge of his phone case when he's nervous. His voice knew all of it. 7 minutes of this. 7 minutes of his own voice cataloging him in real time. Calm as a documentary, steady as a pulse. And then, at the 47th minute, the recording said 4 words. Don't. Turn. Around. Marcus told me he turned around. There was nothing there. He said he's still not sure if that made it better or worse. He sent me the file. It's sitting in my downloads folder right now, and I want to be transparent with you. I have listened to the first 40 minutes. I've sat with that near silence, that flat waveform with its almost breathing underneath. I've listened to the voice begin at 40 minutes. I've heard it describe a room I've never been in with the kind of detail that made my own skin feel slightly too tight. I have not listened past the 47th minute. Marcus told me there's a 48th. He won't tell me what's in it. I've asked him 3 times now. Each time he responds the same way. He says he'll tell me when he's ready, and then he goes quiet for a few days. Last time I heard from him was 9 days ago. He said he'd been sleeping with the lights on. He said he'd also started leaving his voice memos app open when he went to sleep, screen facing down. I asked him why. He said, so I can check in the morning whether anything recorded itself. I haven't asked him what he's found. I'm not sure I want to know yet. Some things, it turns out, record themselves. They don't need you to press anything. They don't need your permission or your awareness or even your presence in the room. What's scarier than that? What doesn't get recorded at all? What stands in the silence for 40 minutes, patient and still, waiting for exactly the right moment, and leaves no trace except 4 words in a 48th minute that nobody has been brave enough to play. Not yet. This one was sent to me by a man I'll call Joel, 31 years old, former security guard. I say former because after what happened, he never worked a night shift again. He's since moved to a different city, changed careers entirely, and told me that the only reason he's sharing this now is because he needs someone else to know. Not to be believed necessarily. Just known. I understand that impulse. Joel worked the overnight shift at a mid-sized shopping mall in the Midwest. The kind of mall that's been slowly dying for a decade. Half the storefronts shuttered, the food court running on 3 vendors instead of 12, the parking lot so empty at night it felt less like a public space and more like a stage set. He'd worked there for 8 months. Quiet job. Predictable. Walk the route. Check the doors. Watch the monitors. Repeat. He listened to podcasts. He drank bad coffee from a machine near the old carousel. He was, by his own admission, comfortably bored. That changed in February. It started the way these things always start, with something so minor you almost don't register it. Joel was doing his 3 a.m. rounds, moving through the east wing toward the food court, when he saw a woman walking ahead of him. Middle-aged, he thought. Plain gray coat, dark shoes, unhurried pace, like someone who knew exactly where they were going and had no particular reason to rush. He assumed she was a cleaning crew supervisor, or maybe someone from mall management doing their own late check. It wasn't unheard of. He didn't approach her. He just noted her, the way you note anything unremarkable, and continued his route. She turned left at the food court. He turned right. That was night 1. Night 2. She was there again. Same time. and he only knew it was the same time because he checked his watch when he spotted her. 3:14. Same gray coat. Same pace. Same left turn at the food court that he never saw her come back from. By the end of the first week, he'd stopped thinking about it. She was just part of the building's rhythm, like the way the heating system clicked on at 2:30 or the way the lights in the south corridor flickered once, always once, around 4 a.m. Background. Furniture. He gave her a nickname in his head. He called her the Walker and moved on. This continued for 6 weeks. And then, on what Joel knew would be his last shift, he'd already handed in his notice, already lined up a day job at a warehouse that paid marginally better and didn't require him to be conscious at 3 in the morning. He decided, on a small and idle impulse, to say goodnight. He was feeling generous, sentimental even. 8 months of sharing a building with someone in the dead hours deserved at least a goodbye, even if she'd never technically acknowledged him. He sped up his pace, closed the distance between them, and said, and I'm quoting him directly here, "Hey, have a good one. Last night for me." The woman stopped. Joel told me that the stopping itself was wrong before anything else happened. It wasn't the natural deceleration of someone who'd heard a sound and was processing it. It was instant, like a video being paused. One step, full motion, and then absolutely nothing. Stopped mid-stride. She turned around. He said her face was the face of someone who was confused in the specific way you're confused when something is present that shouldn't be. Not frightened, not hostile, confused. Like she was looking at a chair that had somehow appeared in a room she'd just confirmed was empty. "Why are you still here?" she said. Joel laughed. Nervously, he told me, "The way you laugh when something feels off and you're hoping humor will sand the edges down." "Just finishing my last shift," he said. "Like I said, moving on." She shook her head slowly. "Your shift ended in 2009, she said. And then she turned the corner into the food court. Joel followed immediately. He was around that corner within 3 seconds. The food court was empty. Every chair up on every table. Every shutter down on every vendor. The only light coming from the faded neon of a sandwich sign that hadn't been turned off in years. No gray coat. No footsteps. Nothing. He went straight to the security office and pulled the employment records. It took him 20 minutes of searching through old digital files and one phone call to a former manager who was deeply unhappy to be woken up. But he found it. A guard named Daniel Marsh had worked that exact post. Same route. Same hours. He'd started in 2007. His last recorded shift was March 2009. No resignation on file. No termination. No forwarding address. He was simply there. And then he wasn't, and apparently nobody had thought to ask why with any particular urgency. 14 years of overnight shifts with no pay, no benefits, and no acknowledgement. Honestly, relatable. Dark, deeply unsettling, and relatable. The mall is still open. Barely, but open. Joel told me the camera in the East Wing, the one that covers the stretch of corridor where he first saw her, has been on a loop for as long as anyone can remember. Maintenance keeps signing off on it as a known issue. Nobody's fixed it. Nobody seems especially motivated to. Some shifts, it turns out, you simply cannot. This story was submitted by a woman I'll call Renee. She sent it to me in 4 separate emails, each one a few days apart, like she could only bring herself to write it in pieces. I've respected that. I've stitched it together exactly as she gave it to me, in the order she gave it, because I think the way she told it matters as much as what she told. Renee, her husband Paul, and their 2 children moved into a house on Bellin Road in rural Pennsylvania in the early spring of last year. It was a good house. She wanted me to say that clearly, and I'm honoring that request. It was a good house. Older, yes. Creaky in the specific way that old houses are creaky, settling into themselves like a person getting comfortable in a chair. But bright. Good light through the windows in the morning. A yard the kids could run in. A neighborhood quiet enough that you could hear birds. They were happy there. For about 2 weeks, they were genuinely, simply happy. Her youngest, a 5-year-old girl, she asked me to call Mia, took to the house immediately. Ran through every room on the first day, claimed the smallest bedroom as her own with the absolute authority that only 5-year-olds possess, and by the end of the first week had already invented an imaginary friend. His name was Caro. Renee told me she didn't think anything of it. Mia had always had an active imagination. Caro was, by Mia's description, a man who was very quiet and very nice and who liked to sit with her while she colored. He lived, Mia mentioned once in passing while Renee was making lunch, in the wall. Renee laughed. She told Paul that evening, and they both laughed. Kids say things like that. It's the kind of sentence that's funny at the dinner table and means absolutely nothing. They laughed. The first thing that stopped being funny was small. Mia came downstairs one morning and told Renee that Caro said the previous family had a dog named Butter who was buried under the big tree in the backyard. Renee humored her, went outside, looked at the base of the large oak near the back fence. There was a small wooden marker she hadn't noticed before. Weathered, tilted slightly, but legible. Butter. Good girl. Renee told herself it was a coincidence that Mia had seen the marker on her own and incorporated it into her game. She almost believed that. Then Mia told her that Caro said the house had a room that Renee hadn't found yet. Renee asked her what she meant. Mia shrugged with the spectacular indifference of a 5-year-old and said Caro told her it was behind her closet and that it was his favorite place because it was warm and dark and quiet and nobody bothered him there. Renee stood in the kitchen for a long moment after Mia skipped back upstairs. Then she went up to Mia's room. She opened the closet, pushed the hanging clothes to either side, and there, at the back wall which she had seen before, had registered as simply the back wall of a standard closet in an old house, she noticed, for the first time, the slight, almost invisible outline of a seam. Rectangular, about the height of a crouched adult. She pressed it. The panel swung inward. She told me that what she felt in that moment wasn't fear exactly, it was the specific nauseating feeling of the world rearranging itself. Of understanding, in the space of a single second, that something has been true for a while that you had no idea was true. Behind the panel was a crawl space. Low ceiling, maybe 4 feet high, 6 feet deep. And inside it, and I need you to really hear this, inside it was a thin mattress, rolled and pushed against the far wall. 3 empty food wrappers. A water bottle. A small battery-powered lantern, the kind you'd buy at a camping supply store, switched off, but with its batteries. Black cover. Spiral-bound. Sitting on top of the mattress like it had been placed there deliberately. Like it had been left. Renee picked it up. She told me her hands were shaking, but she picked it up because she needed to know. She flipped to the last entry. The date was 2 days after her family had moved in. She went back to the first page. There was a name written inside the front cover in small, careful handwriting. A first name and a last name. She told me she's not ready to share the last name publicly, and I'm respecting that. But she told me the first name. It was Caro. I'm going to let that sit for a moment. The journal had 40 pages, most of them filled. Renee read 3 of them before she closed it and called her husband and then called the police. 3 pages was enough. She hasn't told me what was in all 3 pages, and I haven't pressed her because I could hear in the way she talked about it that those 3 pages are something she is actively working to forget. But she did tell me one line. One line from those 3 pages that she said she thinks about every single day. She made me promise to include it, and so I will. She said the line read, "The little one can hear me through the wall. She's not scared. I think she thinks we're friends." The police swept the house. They found evidence of long-term occupation in the crawl space. Months, potentially longer. Whoever Caro was, he was gone by the time they arrived. They have a name from the journal. As of Renee's last email to me, they have not found him. Renee's family does not live on Bellin Road anymore. Mia no longer mentions Caro. When Renee once, carefully, asked if she missed her friend, Mia thought about it for a moment and then said, "He said he'd find us." She said it the way you'd say something sweet. The way a child reports good news. Renee hasn't slept a full night since. I want to be honest with you about something before I tell you this last one. This story was not supposed to be in this video. I have a folder. Those of you who've been here a while know I've mentioned it before, where I put submissions that I'm not ready to use yet. Stories that need more verification, or that feel too raw, or that I simply haven't figured out how to responsibly present. I call it the waiting room. Most stories sit there for a few weeks. Some have been there for over a year. This one I put there the same night I received it and told myself, firmly, that it was staying there. It was submitted anonymously. No name, no location, no contact information beyond a throwaway email address that stopped responding 3 days after the initial submission. The message that came with it was 4 sentences long. 3 of those sentences were the story. The 4th sentence was a warning. It said, "Please don't read this one out loud. I've been doing this long enough to have received warnings before. Most of them are theater. People who want their story to feel more dangerous than it is. I don't say that dismissively. I understand the impulse. But I've learned to tell the difference between performance and genuine fear, and the person who sent this, whoever they are, wherever they are, was not performing." I moved it to the waiting room. I closed the folder. I built this video around 4 stories and told myself that was enough. Then, 2 nights ago, while I was scripting the outro for this video, I opened the folder again. I don't know why. I want to be precise about that. I don't know why I opened it. I hadn't planned to. I was tired. I was almost done, and something made me open the folder and take the story out and read it again. So here it is. I'm choosing to include it. And if something about this one sits wrong with you, if something about it follows you into the quieter parts of your day, I want you to know that I understand. I want you to know you. The story is about a man I'll call Owen. Owen began hearing his name approximately 4 months ago. Not loudly, never loudly. A whisper, specifically. The kind of sound that exists right at the edge of your hearing, where you're never entirely certain whether you heard something or simply thought you did. It happened every time he entered a new room. He'd step through a doorway, into his kitchen, his bathroom, his office, and there it would be. His name. Soft and close and sourceless. He did what a rational person does. He checked for explanations. He had his hearing tested. He looked into auditory hallucinations, into stress responses, into the ways a tired brain manufactures sounds to fill silence. He was thorough. He was methodical. He was, by the account he left online before everything went quiet, a man who very much wanted a reasonable answer and was genuinely willing to accept one. He didn't find one, so he started recording. He set his phone to capture audio every time he moved between rooms. Morning to night, room to room, doorway to doorway. He did this for 2 weeks. And at the end of 2 weeks, he sat down and listened back through everything. What he heard was not whispering. It was counting. I want you to understand what that means, because there's a difference, an enormous difference, between a sound that resembles your name and a sound that is counting. Whispering could be wind, could be pipes, could be the 10,000 mundane things old buildings do when no one is paying attention. Counting is deliberate. Counting is sequential. Counting implies a starting point and, far more terrifyingly, an endpoint. Owen posted about this online. He had a small but dedicated following on a forum dedicated to paranormal experiences, and he documented everything methodically: the recordings, the timestamps, his attempts at rational explanation, the moment those attempts stopped feeling sufficient. His thread ran to several pages. At its peak, it had 847 comments. People offering theories, offering support, offering their own parallel experiences. I found the thread while researching for a different video months before I received the anonymous submission. I remember reading it. I remember thinking it was one of the more compelling and well-documented accounts I'd come across. Owen never posted what happened when the counting reached 0. His last update said only that he was close to the end of the sequence and that he'd report back when it was done. That was the last thing he wrote. The account still exists. I checked again this morning because I check every few weeks because I can't seem to stop. The account exists, the thread exists, and if you found it right now, you would see Owen's posts. You would see the shape of the conversation. But the 847 comments are gone. Not deleted in the way things are usually deleted, where you can see the ghost of them, the placeholder that says a comment has been removed. Gone in the way that suggests they were never there. The thread shows 0 comments. No record. No trace. The account has not been active since. I received the anonymous submission 6 weeks after Owen's last post. I cannot prove they're connected. I want to be transparent about that. I cannot prove it. But the submission described, in precise and specific detail, a man who had been hearing his name at doorways. And it described what he heard when the counting reached 0. I'm not going to tell you what it said. I've made that decision, and I'm holding it. Some things should not be read out loud. I think I understand now why the warning was included, and I think the most responsible thing I can do is honor it. What I will tell you is that I read that final part of the submission once, in full, at my desk, alone, 2 nights ago. And while I was scripting this section, this specific section, the part you're listening to right now, I heard something. Once. It was quiet. It was close. And it happened when I walked from my office into the hallway to get a glass of water. I am telling myself it was nothing. I am telling myself it was the building, or my imagination, or the particular cruelty of spending too many hours inside other people's fear. I am experienced enough to know how suggestion works, how easily a primed mind finds the pattern it's been told to look for. I am telling myself all of that. If you've experienced something like this, the whispers, the counting, the sense of being named by something that has no business knowing your name, the comments are open. They are always open. I read every single one, and I mean that without exception. You won't be dismissed there. You won't be laughed at. Some of the most important pieces of these stories have come from people who weren't sure they should say something and decided, quietly, to say it anyway. Say it anyway. I'm going to go now. I've been in this room for 4 hours putting this together, and I want to tell you something strange that I only just noticed. I never heard myself come in. So, here we are. 5 stories. A woman waving at an empty window who now avoids her own reflection. A voice memo with a 48th minute that nobody has been brave enough to play. A security guard who may or may not have clocked out 14 years too late. A crawl space behind a child's closet, and a journal with a name in it. And one story I probably shouldn't have read out loud, and definitely shouldn't have scripted alone at midnight, that I am going to spend the next several days pretending didn't affect me. It affected me. I said it at the beginning of this, and I want to come back to it now because I think it lands differently after everything you've just heard. One of these people is still being watched right now. I meant that when I said it. I mean it more now. Dana is still in her house. Marcus is still checking his voice memos every morning. Renee's daughter said Kara would find them. Owen's thread sits silent with its missing comments and its unanswered final post. These aren't closed cases. None of them are closed. If you've been here before, and a lot of you have, I see you in the comments every week. You know who you are. You'll know that last week we were in the basement of a hospital that should have been demolished in 1987 and wasn't. If you missed that one, I'll leave it linked. It pairs well with tonight, in the specific sense that some things pair well in the way a bad dream pairs with a sleepless night. For those of you who are new, welcome. This is what we do here. We sit with the things that don't have clean endings. We take them seriously. We don't look away. Drop a comment before you go. Tell me which story got you. Tell me your theory on Owen and the counting and the comments that disappeared. Tell me if you've heard your own name at a doorway and written it off as nothing. I'll be in the comments. I respond to every theory on Story 5 personally. That's not a figure of speech. I'm genuinely in there, and some of the best leads